Imagine a woman named Betty. Betty takes her newborn baby boy to the doctor for a checkup. The doctor examines the boy's charts and gives her a prescription. He says, "I have good news and bad news. Your baby is going blind. But if you give him this pill once a day for 2 months, it will stop that and he will see. It's free, completely safe, and has 0 side effects." But Betty thinks giving a baby a pill every day is a bit annoying, so she throws the pills away. 2 months later, her baby grows up incurably blind. If you think Betty did something awful, you are not alone. Pretty much everyone agrees that Betty acted like a monster. She had a simple way to protect her child from harm, and she ignored it out of pure laziness. Now, look at a second woman named Wilma. Wilma isn't pregnant yet, but she wants to have a baby. Her doctor tells her, if you get pregnant right now, your baby will be born incurably blind. But if you take one tiny pill every day for 2 months before getting pregnant, you'll have a completely healthy, sighted baby. Wilma also thinks taking a pill for 2 months is annoying, so she doesn't take the pills, gets pregnant right away, and gives birth to an incurably blind child. Your gut tells you Wilma did something just as wrong as Betty. It feels like an identical situation. Except it isn't. Because if you examine the logic, you can prove that Wilma did absolutely nothing wrong. Welcome to the non-identity problem. It's a mind-bending trap first created by philosopher Derek Parfit in 1984, and it proves that our moral intuition might just be a giant optical illusion. To understand why Wilma did nothing wrong, we have to break down how human identity actually works. When Betty made her choice, her baby, let's call him Bam Bam, was already born. If she gave him the pill, Bam Bam would see. If she didn't, Bam Bam would be blind. Either way, the child is Bam Bam. Betty directly harmed Bam Bam by making his life worse than it could have been. But Wilma's case is totally different. If Wilma takes the pill and waits 2 months, a specific sperm and egg come together to make a baby boy. Let's call him Rocks. If Wilma ignores the pill and gets pregnant right now, a completely different sperm and egg come together to make a baby girl. Let's call her Pebbles. Here's the trap. Pebbles was born blind. But is Pebbles worse off because of Wilma's choice? Think about it. If Wilma had taken the pill and waited 2 months, Pebbles wouldn't have been born healthy. Pebbles wouldn't exist at all. Rocks would exist instead. So, did Wilma harm Pebbles? To harm someone, you have to make their life worse than it would have been. But Pebbles has a life that is still worth living. Being blind isn't great, but it's certainly better than never existing in the first place. So Wilma didn't make Pebbles worse off. Wilma gave Pebbles the gift of existence. If Wilma didn't harm Pebbles and she didn't harm anyone else, then no one was harmed. And if no one was harmed, how can we say Wilma did anything wrong? At this point, your brain is probably fighting back. You're thinking, come on, there has to be a trick here. Wilma must be doing something wrong. Philosophers spent decades trying to escape this trap, but every door leads to a wall. Attempt number 1. She violated the baby's rights. Did Wilma violate Pebbles' rights? Well, Pebbles didn't exist when Wilma made her choice. And does a unborn, non-existent person have a right not to be conceived into a life with a disability? If so, that would mean it's better for Pebbles to never exist at all, which makes no sense. Attempt number 2. She should have created the happiest outcome. This is the utilitarian argument. Wilma should have waited because bringing a sighted child into the world creates more net happiness than bringing a blind child into the world. Sounds reasonable, right? But if you follow that rule, logic breaks again. If you are morally forced to always choose the option that creates the highest total happiness in the world, then you are morally required to have as many children as humanly possible, as long as their lives are slightly good. Deciding to stay home and watch YouTube instead of having another baby would make you an immoral person. Philosopher Derek Parfit called this the repugnant conclusion, so pure happiness math doesn't save us either. So, how do we solve this? Philosopher David Boonin proposed a shocking answer. We don't. Boonin argues that the logical argument is 100% correct, and Wilma actually did nothing wrong. The only reason we think she did wrong is that our human brains are falling for a cognitive glitch. Our brains constantly confuse 2 different statements. Making a specific child blind, which harms someone, like in Betty's case, versus causing a blind child to exist instead of a completely different child, which harms no one. Because Wilma's story looks so much like Betty's story, our gut moral instincts get confused. We mistakenly act like Wilma took a sighted baby named Pebbles and made her blind, but she didn't. To prove that our brains are just glitching, Boonin gives us 2 test cases where the confusion vanishes. Imagine a guy named Fred. Fred is standing by a lake and sees 2 boys drowning, Billy and Timmy. Billy is incurably blind. Timmy is sighted. Fred only has time to save one boy. Billy is a little closer to Fred, so it's slightly easier to save Billy. Because of that minor convenience, Fred throws the life preserver to Billy, saving his life, while Timmy drowns. Now ask yourself, did Fred do something morally wrong by saving the blind child instead of the sighted child? Of course not. Billy's life was worth saving. Nobody would call Fred an evil person for saving a blind boy from drowning. Now look at Barney. Barney sees two women drowning. Both women will conceive a child in an hour if they survive. Barney can only save one woman. He knows for a fact that woman A will conceive a blind child and woman B will conceive a sighted child. But because woman A is closer, Barney saves her out of minor convenience. As a result, woman A survives and has blind child. Is Barney a moral monster? Again, no. Fred and Barney made choices that resulted in a blind child living instead of a sighted child, purely out of minor convenience. Yet nobody thinks Fred or Barney did anything wrong. Why? Because in Fred and Barney's cases, both choices are right in front of us. Our brains can clearly see that saving Billy didn't harm Billy. Wilma's choice is structurally identical to Barney's choice. The only difference is that Wilma's alternative child didn't exist yet, which tricking your brain into thinking she harmed her baby. The non-identity problem exposes a weird truth about human nature. We like to believe that our moral judgments are built on pure, flawless logic, but when we deal with future people who don't exist yet, our standard rules of right and wrong collapse. Wilma didn't hurt anyone. She brought a child into the world whose life is worth living. The logic proves she did nothing wrong. The only thing that's broken isn't Wilma's ethics. It's the way our brains process people who haven't been born yet. So, what do you think? Is Wilma completely innocent, or is there still a flaw in the logic? Let me know in the comments below.